Charlie Kirk's case has exploded back into public attention after Joe Rogan's latest podcast, yet one major element is being almost completely ignored. Joe Rogan and Candace Owens have both introduced new pieces of information that mainstream outlets appear determined to bury, especially regarding Erica Kirk's emotional response immediately after the event. The details simply do not line up. During the discussion, Candace mentioned something striking. 3 individuals had told her off the record, 2 of whom even had this in written communication, that certain details behind the situation were far from clear. According to her, there was far too much strange activity surrounding the incident, suggesting that even key observers did not fully understand what was unfolding. She also referenced the presence of an older man at the scene, described as acting bizarrely and allegedly serving as a kind of decoy figure. This man reportedly began shouting loudly, and according to those who saw him, he even pulled down his pants. The odd part was that this same individual had appeared at multiple major events in the past, including the 9/11 tragedy, the Boston bombing, and another situation where he had reportedly called in a fake bomb threat. Despite these unusual connections, anyone raising questions online now has their posts mysteriously removed. The official version of events contains so many holes that it barely holds together, and what is coming next forces people to reconsider everything they thought they knew. The incident occurred on September 10, 2025, while conservative activist Charlie Kirk was speaking live at Utah Valley University. Chaos erupted unexpectedly, and authorities quickly detained a 22-year-old named Tyler Robinson, announcing within hours that the case was solved. At first glance it sounded simple, but Candace Owens soon released a massive revelation that overturned the supposedly clear-cut explanation. She claimed that Charlie had told close friends the day before that he felt unsafe and believed something bad was coming. Joe Rogan then dove into the inconsistencies, analyzing issues ranging from the alleged weapon to whether the young man could realistically have accomplished what the report described. Throughout the discussion, Rogan highlighted numerous points. Major discrepancies investigators seemed to be avoiding, suspicious behavior from individuals around Charlie, and whispers among media insiders suggesting the possibility of prearrangement. Before exploring the deeper theories, the discussion turned to Charlie himself. He was a well-known conservative commentator and one of the most recognizable activists in the country. Many people disagreed with him, and he had accumulated powerful opponents. Now the strange details around the incident had generated far more questions than answers. Even people close to him had begun speaking out, and their words were unsettling. Candace then introduced a revelation that shocked listeners. She said the day before Charlie died, he told certain people, in clear terms, "I think they are going to kill me." She clarified that he had not personally told her this, and that she was repeating the statements strictly based on the testimony of 3 people who had spoken with him. She insisted these individuals were trustworthy and hoped they would come forward publicly. She emphasized that these conversations were off the record and that she would honor that, but she nevertheless hoped the growing global pressure for answers would encourage them to step forward and confirm the statements. According to Candace, Charlie had expressed real fear the very day before the tragedy. Even more alarming, 2 of the people who reported this had written exchanges from Charlie himself documenting his concern. One of these individuals was not just a random acquaintance, but was reportedly a major donor to Turning Point USA, the organization Charlie founded. These were not anonymous internet rumors. They were people from Charlie's inner circle. Candace stressed that she had verified the information from multiple sources and had been holding it privately for more than a week before speaking publicly. She went further, saying the entire situation made her lose faith in politics completely and caused her to distrust Trump, someone Charlie had supported tirelessly. She described her heartbreak, over how much Charlie had given to political causes and expressed belief that he had been betrayed in one of the most severe ways imaginable. She argued that the political world follows a cold pattern. When someone is no longer useful, those in power move on with disturbing ease. She also referenced how certain public figures receive symbolic tributes only after tragedy, such as memorial days or streets named in their honor, and noted that Charlie had already received that treatment abroad, which intensified her doubts. The conversation then shifted to the forensic issues. Candace stated that Charlie had been shot from the front and that the bullet had not exited. A fragment was reportedly recovered near his neck, close to the spine and aligned with the shoulder blade. She explained that she had verified this information from several sources. A front entry with a recovered fragment creates a clear trajectory, revealing what direction the shot came from and what type of weapon could have been responsible. According to her, these details contradicted the official account substantially. She argued that the inconsistencies were too significant to ignore and called for transparency and courage from those who knew the truth. The discussion around the forensic side of the incident became even more intense when Joe Rogan and Candace Owens examined the technical claims about the supposed weapon. Rogan challenged the idea that the 22-year-old suspect, who had no military training, could have taken apart an old rifle, hidden it in a backpack, climbed onto a roof, reassembled it, and then carried out the alleged shot. He argued that even highly skilled individuals would need considerable time and precision to disassemble and reassemble such a firearm. He emphasized that the parts of a rifle of that type would not reasonably fit in a backpack and that the entire scenario sounded mechanically impossible. Rogan questioned how the suspect could have reached the roof unnoticed, especially when there was a clear line of sight from where Charlie was standing to the surrounding rooftops. He asked why there were no drones or proper surveillance checks, calling the entire narrative illogical. Video footage then surfaced showing a person jumping from a roof, which added to the confusion. Rogan pointed out that the identity of the person in the video was still unclear. He said it was possible that the person jumping was not the shooter at all. Perhaps he was someone who thought he was going to shoot, or someone playing a role designed to mislead investigators. Rogan even suggested that the figure could have been a plant. This theory gained traction when people started examining the social media activity of the alleged suspect's family members. Online investigators noticed strange posts on the mother's page, leading to even more questions about whether the situation was being misrepresented or manipulated. Candace emphasized that she had deeply examined the technical aspects of the impact. Her analysis pointed to a front-facing entry with the fragment recovered from a specific region near the neck and shoulder blade. The trajectory, according to her, did not match the weapon investigators claimed was used. She insisted that if the projectile did not come from the rifle they identified, then the entire theory behind the incident collapsed. The official narrative stated that the suspect used a hunting rifle passed down from his grandfather from the era of World War I. Yet the fragment found in Charlie's body, according to Candace, did not resemble the ammunition associated with that weapon. This discrepancy raised a fundamental question. If the fragment did not come from that firearm, then what weapon was actually used? And more importantly, who fired it? The conversation then shifted to a moment where Rogan stressed the importance of acknowledging uncertainty. He reminded listeners that one does not need to hold a definitive opinion on everything, and that recognizing ignorance is part of honesty. Candace responded by saying she had already admitted that she did not know the full truth and that she had never claimed certainty. Instead, she pointed out that she simply did not believe the official account because of the inconsistencies. Rogan pushed her further, asking why she would say she did not believe it without absolute proof. She replied that if it made people more comfortable, she could say she did not know. She explained that she had not made a public declaration of certainty, had not produced a video claiming a definitive conclusion, and had only stated what seemed off to her. This exchange highlighted the underlying tension in the entire case. Candace's instinct and private testimony suggested a hidden story, while Rogan emphasized the importance of resisting premature conclusions. Together, their conversation represented the two sides of the public struggle, an instinctive sense that something was profoundly wrong, and the logical demand for hard evidence before definitive statements could be made. Candace insisted she was relying on private information from off-record sources she could not reveal, which made external verification difficult. Rogan acknowledged this, but maintained that major claims require clear proof. Despite these differences, both agreed on one thing: when an official report contains this many contradictions, the public has the right to keep questioning the narrative. This is not rumor spreading, it is the pursuit of transparency. And transparency became even more necessary when the media's behavior came into focus. Among all the media reactions, one stood out sharply. During a live broadcast, an MSNBC host suggested, almost casually, that Charlie's death might have been the result of a supporter firing a gun in celebration. The host compared it to people shooting in the air during public festivities. Rogan's reaction was instant and blunt. He found the suggestion absurd. He asked what kind of environment a political event at a university would have to become for someone to be firing celebratory shots. He mocked the idea by comparing it to a 4th of July street party, saying the claim made absolutely no sense. What bothered Rogan and others most was how the network seemed to bend over backward to avoid looking at the real inconsistencies. Instead of exploring legitimate questions, the host chose one of the most far-fetched theories imaginable and presented it as a reasonable possibility. Rogan said it almost seemed as if certain outlets were trying to distract from the troubling details by offering explanations that were both insulting and illogical. The more the media dismissed legitimate concerns, the more suspicious the entire situation appeared. It felt as though every time a new contradiction was identified, a bizarre counter-explanation was immediately pushed into the conversation to cloud the issue. This pattern of distraction, strange witnesses, questionable weapon details, missing footage, unusual media narratives, created an atmosphere of confusion that felt intentional. According to Rogan and many observing the case, it appeared as though the truth was being buried under layer after layer of noise. Instead of investigating the inconsistencies, certain outlets seemed determined to drown them out with improbabilities. And each time someone tried to examine the deeper issues, another odd detail suddenly surfaced to muddy the waters further. As the discussion continued, the entire situation around Charlie Kirk's death became even more tangled. Joe Rogan and Candace Owens both emphasized that every time someone tried to investigate the deeper inconsistencies, a new confusing detail suddenly emerged, almost as if the truth were being buried beneath layers of distraction. Rogan pointed out that this was not merely a matter of conflicting reports, but a recurring pattern. Too much noise, too many strange coincidences, and an official version that required the public to overlook obvious contradictions. The more people looked into the case, the more it seemed deliberately obscured. One of the most striking points concerned the mysterious older man who appeared at the scene. According to Rogan, this man had been spotted at multiple major events throughout recent history, including past tragedies that had shaped national conversations. The chances of the same individual appearing at so many unrelated critical moments were essentially non-existent. Yet there he was again, acting erratically, shouting confusing statements, and drawing attention away from the immediate facts. Right after this incident, the same man was taken into custody on unrelated serious charges, making him inaccessible to the public or the press. Rogan noted that the timing was suspiciously convenient, as it prevented anyone from questioning him further. The man had created chaos, and then he disappeared from reach, leaving only confusion in his wake. Rogan then turned his attention back to the weapon supposedly used by the 22-year-old suspect, Tyler Robinson. The official narrative claimed he had taken apart a century-old rifle passed down from his grandfather, carried it in a backpack, assembled it on top of a building, fired a precision shot, and then escaped the scene. Rogan found this explanation absurd. He stressed that even highly trained marksmen would struggle to accomplish such a feat under pressure. The rifle's parts were too long to fit neatly into a backpack, and assembling such a weapon required careful handling that did not match the timeline. Additionally, the idea that the suspect climbed onto a rooftop without anyone noticing raised questions about security protocols. Rogan asked why no one had checked the rooftops, why there was no drone surveillance, and how such an obvious vantage point could have remained unsecured. Candace Owens agreed that the official version was full of technical problems. Her analysis of the projectile fragment suggested a front-facing impact, and the fragment found near Charlie's neck and shoulder area did not match the ammunition from the alleged rifle. She claimed investigators never recovered a matching projectile from the weapon authorities identified. If the fragment did not come from that rifle, then the key evidence tying Tyler Robinson to the shooting collapsed entirely. Candace emphasized she had confirmed this information from multiple sources and had deliberately held it back for verification. If the fragment belonged to another type of weapon, then someone else had fired the shot. The implications were serious, yet major outlets ignored this critical inconsistency. While discussing these details, Rogan and Candace revisited an earlier debate they had once had on a podcast. Rogan had warned that people should not rush to conclusions without concrete evidence. He argued that acknowledging uncertainty was not weakness but honesty. Candace responded that she had already admitted she did not know the full truth, and that her position came from noticing patterns that did not add up. She clarified that she had not publicly declared any theory as fact, only that she found the official narrative unconvincing. Despite this clarification, their exchange highlighted the tension between instinct and evidence. Candace had private sources she could not reveal, making her claims difficult to independently verify. Rogan insisted that extraordinary claims need clear proof, yet he too acknowledged that the inconsistencies were too significant to ignore. Both agreed that the public had every right to question the narrative, especially when so many details contradicted one another. Rogan used the example of missing footage, strange witness behavior, and unexplained gaps to illustrate how the official story seemed stitched together with assumptions rather than facts. The media's role then came into sharper focus. Instead of acknowledging inconsistencies, certain outlets appeared to deflect attention by offering bizarre alternative theories. One MSNBC host suggested that the incident might have been the result of a supporter firing a weapon in celebration. Rogan was stunned by this suggestion, calling it implausible and irresponsible. He said that such an explanation sounded more like an attempt to distract than an honest effort to understand what happened. Rogan argued that portraying Charlie's supporters as reckless enough to fire guns at a university event reflected media bias rather than logic. The more the media pushed improbable theories, the more suspicious the situation became. This led to the broader question, Why were mainstream sources so unwilling to explore legitimate investigative angles? Rogan argued that when the truth threatens established narratives or powerful interests, the easiest strategy is to bury it under confusion. Throw in random theories, highlight irrelevant details, introduce conflicting narratives, and soon the public becomes too overwhelmed to pursue clarity. Candace echoed this sentiment, saying the pattern felt intentional and that the inconsistencies were too numerous to dismiss as coincidence. Together, Rogan and Candace outlined the troubling picture that remained. Charlie Kirk had reportedly told several people the day before his death that he felt something was going to happen to him. Two individuals had this in written messages from Charlie himself. The forensic evidence did not match the weapon the authorities claimed was used. A suspicious witness with a history of appearing at major incidents created chaos and then disappeared behind legal walls. The alleged shooter's ability to perform the technical actions described seemed impossible. Surveillance gaps, inexplicable oversights, and contradictory reports surrounded the case. Meanwhile, the media offered far-fetched explanations instead of demanding answers. By the end of the conversation, the remaining question was the same one that had been building from the start. Was this truly the work of a lone individual, or was there a deeper story hidden beneath all the noise? Rogan openly doubted the official version. Candace believed Charlie sensed something serious ahead of time, and the public, witnessing contradiction after contradiction, continued to ask why the truth seemed buried instead of revealed. In the end, the case left viewers with a troubling conclusion. When too many details fail to align, people have the right, if not the responsibility, to keep questioning until the full truth comes to light.